start our recording with this screen and then go to a whiteboard. And clear that drawing. So this whiteboard gives me the opportunity to just draw and sketch on some things that are important. Earlier, well, to briefly update us onto what's going on since last Tuesday, we didn't know last Tuesday morning about Cohen and Manafort. We knew that a verdict was imminent, and then Cohen, I think coincidentally, I don't think it was coincident, they drove this news cycle for that one day. Same time they were releasing Manafort was guilty on 8 or 9 counts. Cohen pleads guilty. And the one thing he had said was that he did it to affect the results of the election. That had FEC, Federal Election Commission, regulations. What people don't get is that campaigns break FEC law all the time. Generally, they pay fines. Very rarely, even in extreme cases, does anybody go to jail or get indicted. They even had an example 15 years ago of that James Edwards had people that paid off someone. I mean, it was, and he didn't even get indicted, and that was pretty extreme. So the point is that the market initially broke us 6 points, but that same, we have ground zero, right? That same session pretty much was higher than the ground zero of where that report came out. Tuesday afternoon, 3:40. Take a look at that time around 3:40 Central PM and take a look at the market action. And what we had said in the day or so after that is if the market was really concerned about him and if they were really concerned about Trump having more legal battles, we certainly wouldn't be going up and up and up and staying above that ground zero marker. Plus, this guy Cohen's lawyer comes out and says he's got some things that are interesting to Trump, and he's walked even those back in the last couple of days. But you got to remember, and I'm going down this path, not to be political, because it's all relevant to how the market's been moving off of it. I'm covering this because there's things like, in this day and age, GoFundMe pages. And they should be called Go something else. But they're called GoFundMe pages where you could raise money. And this Cohen had a page up. And don't kid yourself, his lawyer kind of rabble rouses what he might have to say or do, and his GoFundMe page goes up a lot. And they raise a ton of money. He wants this guy to raise money. That's probably how he's going to get paid. He's got to make sure this guy's got money to pay him. So then he walks back what he might be able to say that's interesting. So that's the new era of raising money, especially when you're like guy I was listening to yesterday saying that's like selling testimony is the way it's worked out. It's pretty interesting. So the market, though, had this priced in. And that's why they call it the smart money, because they had it priced in that there was nothing to see here type of stuff from last Tuesday, Wednesday. It was all just political sensationalism. And that's why the market's your best pundit to watch, your best leader to watch as to how news geopolitically might be affecting how real it is or how sensationalized it is. So that's kind of something that happened between last meeting last week and today. I covered this late in the room today about what's fundamentally driving us. You should have your finger on it. It still could be this special prosecutor and Mueller finding something or ending it. I don't know how that looks. And it could be any Trump tweet. It could be Canada and China now coming to the table like Mexico and the European Union did. And then it could be something we don't know about yet. And then lastly, and we're not going to talk much about this until we get closer to it, the midterm elections in the United States generally wouldn't matter, but they're going to matter this time around. Democrats take control of either house. I think that's temporarily bearish if we could put our finger on it during election night. If they don't, and we can put our finger on it, that's bullish for equity markets. We'll see where the market is, what it's done, and the context around before election night and what's priced in. And then we'll look at certain districts and states that could be pivotal. Right now, Secretary Ross said there was no breakthrough in last week's U.S.-China trade talks. We kind of knew that, though. Trump was interested in to see how new duties will impact the China talks. So I don't think a lot of new information there. But he's on the wire right now, Commerce Secretary Ross, who plays an important role in these trade negotiations, as you should know. The going back to the point, though, is November is midterms in the U.S. could be important, and we'll probably preview it like I did the presidential election in 2016, and then open the room or open this to look to see if it's a dud or if there's moments like, hey, if this state right in here, this red dot, I'm saying, if it goes Republican, they're going to maintain the House, and boom, we get a pop. If it goes Democrat, there's a chance it swings. Or there could be a moment even where when we're getting these things in, the balance shifts, and we know what that plus or minus number is. So too many things, too many variables that might be rectified by the time we get a week away. So not to get too deep into it because we'd be wasting our time, but it is important to know it's out there. And November, early November will come quickly. Now, I touched on this yesterday in the room, and oftentimes I come up with ideas over the weekend as to what I want to talk about on Tuesday, on these in these Tuesday meetings. Sometimes I have them scheduled for a few weeks out, but I try to keep them fresh because things change, and what I think are important changes after talking to a few people, or listening to some of the comments made every day in the room, and different things like that, where people's weaknesses are. It's a help me help you effort that helps me help you. But I really go back to, and there's going to be some interesting changes on the site to make it easier to navigate. So you guys that are Edge members, which is obviously all of you, but the exercises, they're at the bottom of track 4. And they're indexed to say trading exercises are really important to do. And I know it's hard to do exercises because just by their very nature, it's hard to be consistent at doing anything. But if you want to be consistent at pulling money out of the market, then you're going to have some discipline, and it has to and should start with just doing an exercise every day for 2 weeks. And if it doesn't help you, great. But at least then what will help you is the fact that you did what you say or said you were going to do for 2 weeks. So many people are weak, not just as traders, but as people in doing what we say. And that becomes catastrophic when you trade. If you don't do what you say consistently, it often talks you into missing trades, talks you out of good trades, talks you into bad trades. And then you just get just this giant negative snowball that you can't move because you've built it up yourself. You've stacked it up yourself. And all of a sudden, you're overwhelmed. And it all starts with not doing what you say. Hold on one second. You could look at it with an analogy of people that go on diets. Every diet works. It's just some are easier to stay on than others. And then how do you go off a diet? You don't go off a diet in a day. Generally, you go off a diet by cheating a little bit more. And next thing you know, you're not cheating anymore. You're just off it. It starts small. So to build momentum, it's the same way. That's negative momentum you built when you cheat on a diet. Well, what's positive momentum? It's a simple exercise that you should do every day for 2 weeks. See if it's helped you. Do it every day for a month. If it doesn't help you, at least you could say you did something every day for 2 weeks. You had the discipline to do what you said you were going to do. And there, in and of itself, is helpful. One of the guys in the room who've been in here for multiple years didn't really think much of the quoting exercise. Didn't even think much of the quoting exercise when we're on the phone talking about it a few weeks ago. And it's been a pivotal part of understanding the dome and reading order flow after he started doing it. And so, and like I told him, and like I'll tell you, all these exercises, some will help you more than others, but none of them are going to hurt you. That's what's important. None of them are going to hurt. So let me get into what this one is. And it's an offshoot of one I did earlier in this whole Edge program a few years ago. And you should look at that one. But this one kind of drills it down into how do I get to predict a 4, 5, 6, 10-point move. You're never going to get good at predicting. Let me change the color. You're never going to get good at predicting the market going from here to here unless you get good at the market going from here to here. And then work yourself up. Wait, let me draw this again. I wanted a pen. You want to get good at the market going from here to here. How do you predict that? How do you get on the team? That's great. But get good at going from there to there. You guys got to hold on one second. All right. Sorry about that. That was my mom. If I don't answer, she thinks something happened to me. So anyhow, we go from here to here, and everybody's worried about how to get in a team, but they're not good at just what's the first 4 ticks. Then let's worry about the next 4, and then the next 4. Just build that stair steps of progress. Is it hard to go from here to here and understanding where the market? Yeah, that's a big step. Make it easier on yourself and build some steps up to it. Get good at from here to here. That doesn't ever mean you have to trade from this first X to the second X at all. It just means that you're going to get more and more confident so that you could stay on the team for the big move. Because if you think about this a second, if you get good at from here to here, and then from there to there, and then 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 eventually to the ultimate profit target, none of this becomes as much of a surprise to shake your ass out in the ultimate goal of going from entry to exit. The problem with going from entry to exit becomes this is all built to screw you up and shake your ass out. And people who don't know what they're doing take it personal and say, this market won't let me stay in from here to here. The market's job is to shake us out. So when it's trying to, don't take it personal, it's doing its job. It helped me raising kids when someone told me, kids' job is to test you, is to cry, is to complain. Don't take it personal. It's their job to find out how far they could push you and why things are happening to them. They're not doing it to piss you off. Well, sometimes they do. But when you don't take it personal, you're more objective, right? You have a better understanding of it. Going back, if you know what could happen between entry to exit on a profitable trade, you could be more objective so that this stuff doesn't shake you out and then it goes. Because you got good at predicting what could happen along the chart and got good at the when moments and say, you know what, it's still above, not much in my entry, but it's still above what I got long, and some stuff that happened in here is keeping me bullish, and I know that if it can get above a certain point, it could then go, and I know that there's a shakeout maybe coming, and it shook out the way. Again, how do I get better at here to here before trying to get great at the ultimate entry exit? How many people get stuck with that when they look at a chart? You know, people look at charts all the first, when they start trading, they look at a chart, and I have no idea how to read it other than this is how the first here's how the first impression or how people how to read a chart, learn how to read a chart. Here's what they say. Well, hell, if I could buy it there and sell it there, I could make, what is it, 1250? Okay, times, well, how many points is that? They don't even know where it ticks. How many shares is that, or how many dollars is that? 1250, and they start doing the multiplication. If I could buy it here and sell it there, yeah, of course, if you could do that, God bless you. But you don't realize that, and I draw this chart again, what happens between there and there isn't just effortlessness. Even if the damn market stays above your entry and it's profitable the whole time, it's going to bust your stones there and there and there, even though it might not look like it on a chart. So again, getting good at what might happen in the next couple bars has nothing to do if you're going to trade the next couple bars. It has everything to do to put you in a location and have the understanding that whatever's happening in the next few bars and the next few bars is what's going to happen for it to get to your ultimate profit target. And I could care less what your ultimate profit target is. We all have them. So if you get better at being objective during the course of the trade, because you have a higher level of expectation and probability in each kind of sub move, the one thing gets better, and that's confidence. Confidence comes from stripping out randomness and saying, that wasn't a good guess, right? If a carpenter builds a deck and he thought he just built it on good guesses where he was cutting the wood, is he confident? Is he a guy you want to hire to build your deck? But yet you hire yourself to trade and you're not this. How do you get confident? You have to do the opposite of, you have to attack fear, because fear keeps you from being confident. I'm not very confident when I'm walking through a haunted house because I'm a little afraid, right? And then as I get older, I get less afraid and more confident because I know the guy's not going to kill me. He's going to piss me off because he's going to jump out and maybe really scare me. But I'm not as fearful as I was when I was maybe 10. So you got to conquer fear to get confident. And fear comes from, like, the guy jumping out at you when you were a kid. You weren't really sure if he's going to hurt you. But when you understand that generally the things we're afraid of are not really that, they're really boogeyman in the closet type of things. So when you could understand the fear that you're having, you have a better chance of turning it into confidence because you understand it. It's no longer real. Yeah, you're still supposed to be a little scared if a son of a gun jumps out at you. But ultimately, you know, if you're in an haunted house, he's not going to kill you. If you're down a dark alley at night in a tough neighborhood, you should balance the fear and confidence. You should be more pissed off you're there, but now you got to be confident to get out of there, right? You got to still be fearful because there's a reason for it. Now the person jumping out at you can't hurt you, can't kill you. So you better be prepared. And what gets you more confident is if you're carrying. What is it? That doesn't mean you're not fearful. It just means you understand the fear. And because you understood the fear, you protected yourself. You're protecting yourself. All right, let's not get into these crazy analogies, even though they're great. I want to get back to what the hell the exercise is, because and I would say 20% of the people will do this for 2 weeks. Only 20% of you guys and girls do this for consistently for 14 days, or let's call it 10 sessions. All right, 20%, which is 2 out of 10. I'll do the math for you. Now, get good from here to here before here to here. That's the whole point of this damn exercise. There's some guys in here that's got some awesome stuff that they built into their charts. Well, when trying to understand it, understand this first. So if you have something that might pick the bottom of a move and might show you it's going to rally, try to get good at that first and not visualize the whole bottom. Get good at this, a head start, I'll call it, and I'll abbreviate it HS, head start, not high school, which many of you probably didn't finish. But high school or head start defines good location. If you get a head start in most of your trades, you should be a profitable trader, no doubt. Even if it's a head start of a few ticks. If you're finding 3-tick profits in many of your early trades, many of your trades, and you're not making money, we're going to order a CT. Now, that's another video we could do. We could do a punch in the face video. We could have a guy doing a MRI or a CT on his head after I punch him in the face. We have a lot of fun with it. We could go into a dealership and I'll bring in a market profile and Fibonacci chart, try to negotiate price with the guy. And I know the owner of a dealership. He'd let me do it. All right, that aside, what's the exercise? Let's change the screen share. Secretary Ross is still yapping. We've just chopped sideways to higher. The exercise is to, you guys have heard me say this before, close your eyes and go back at some moment on a chart, whatever platform you use, with a PNF, most like, is the periodicity of choice, and stop it. I don't want to use this one. I want to use this one. All right, let me close my eyes again. I'm really not closing my eyes this time. And you stop it. And then you say, okay, these are what we know to be rotational bars, right? Down bar, up bar, down bar, up bar. It's choppy. I don't have to be a rocket scientist. This should be resistance until it's not. Now, I don't know what's going to happen on the hard right edge, and I'm sick of hearing people talk about other edge. Hard right edge. What is the hard right edge? That's now. That's right now is the hard right edge. Well, yeah, people suck at reading the now, but they really suck at reading what does the now mean for the next couple bars. That's all I care about. I want you guys to get good at the next couple bars, even if you never become a shorter time frame trader. I could care less. The hard right edge has to also have, if I do this, let's get rid of this. If I do this, this is a line, all right? Forget about the chart. Just look at this line. This line here is this right here, is the hard right edge. The hard right edge is where we're at right now. That's where the market's trading, 97, 97 quarter in the E-minis, right? One second. All right, sorry about that, guys. Hard right edge, where is it? It's right here. What I want you guys to now think about is when the market has the periodicities, right? The rotations like this, it's on the hard right edge. I want you to start to focus on what's it going to look like next to here. I don't care if it's going to be up there in an hour or down here in an hour. I care what it's going to be like for you guys in this exercise the next few bars, 2-3 bars. P&F, you don't have to use P&F all the time. For this exercise, you should. So we know that this happened here. If you look at this chart, we've got some context, and this is important. Maybe some levels were spit out from it. Now we know what's going on right now. Maybe it's a live edge zone that's red, and the son of a gun can't go down. It's going to help you predict them upside. I want you to predict the next bar. And I want you to get good at it. And I don't want you to worry about the next giant move. You can, but for Market Delta Desktop, if I hold down control and go right arrow, hold down control and go right arrow, it'll just give me one more bar. All right? I'm going back and forth. Left arrow, I go backwards. So what did I say before? I said this red line up in here, and it's hard for me to do this and the keystroke, but this red line up in here, I could do it. I know what red line I'm talking about, and that's what you guys will be able to do and say 76 even should hold as resistance, which is up here. So then you go and you go, oh, it's held as resistance. You just predicted the next 2 bars. You just predicted the next 2 bars. I don't think it's going to hold as resistance if we go back up to 76 even. Oh, it didn't. I didn't know that. I don't remember that. And it didn't. Now the 76 even should be support. Oh, wow, it was. Remember, rotation and liftoff. I'm just trying to predict the next couple bars, guys. That's it. Do this every week, every day for a week. You don't have to do like, how long should you do it for? Do a whole session's worth. Just do one session. Go through the whole set. Look at this. This is at early in the overnight session. When I see this, I know that the upside should be the right side. When I see this, I know it's going to get choppy. Reds and greens. And it's choppy. Wow. Why did I know it was going to be choppy? Because all this red, when it comes back down like right in here, it didn't hold all this bullishness. So it's probably at least going to be choppy. And it is choppy. I'm thinking it's going to hold the dotted line reds. And it does. Comes in. I think it's going to hold that green in there. And it does. When it doesn't hold that dotted line, it's bullish again. It should go up. Oh, it doesn't. It comes down. I was wrong. No problem, because I'm going to be wrong sometimes. This is bearish, and if it goes up past 84, it'll stay. Or if it stays below 84, it should stay somewhat bearish. Oh, gets above 84, 84 half, bullish. I'm not bullish when it goes to 88. I'm bullish above 84 half. Why? Because that's where it got bearish. You see how you're walking yourself through understanding some of the things, and then you could take the other additives you have in your recipe and trying to implement a strategy and help you make these predictions. Or you might even have, like I'm using my edge zones in the pattern of a 4 P&F to make my next 2 or 3 bars. But could you imagine if the exercise just became, all right, with this information right in here, I got to find something that's going to have it go to 90 even, 7 points higher. In the overnight session, it's a magnificent move. I got to predict that. Are you kidding me? Meteorologist, there would be no such thing as the nightly news having a weather segment if all they had to do was try to predict 2 weeks out, because it would be irrelevant. People don't give a crap about 2 weeks out, and they would be so inaccurate it wouldn't even be worth it. But they're more accurate 2, 3, 4, 5 days out. 5-day forecast is as far as most of them go. But yet, as traders, we want to go 10 points, 20 points. Come on. Too many things can happen, will happen, where it doesn't glide center. When you get bigger winners, it's because you're catching bigger moves on surprises that splash the market. When you're throwing stones in the market and looking for big moves, big ripples, it ain't going to happen, right? You got to throw a big SOB boulder in there and you get a big splash. That's a big fundamental piece of news coming down the wire that shocked the market, that rallies us or breaks us. China's President Xi says we want to do a similar deal with the United States as Mexico, and he said it right now. I'd buy this thing with 5 hands and we would rally probably 8, 9 points. And so would you guys. Then you look back and say, my best trade this month was that Xi trade from when the president of China said it, and now you know this stuff real time and you're reacting diligently. And so when you talk to people who are not really involved in trading, you are more intelligent on what the hell's going on in the world, because we traded at ground zero in its most rawest form. Everything that affects the markets or happens in the world generally has a market that gets affected by it. And the bigger the story, the more affected the market will be by it, whether it's central banks and interest rates or oil supply, geopolitical tensions, trade, talk, and we can go on and on. The next few bars, you guys that have developed great ideas or implementing it so your visuals are best, just try to predict when you see what you need to see. Is it going to at least give you a couple bars of a head start? And get confident. Do this exercise. Just the next, and I'll continue to do it for us. So we're going, oh, this brings me to real time. So I simulated real time by not knowing what was going to happen. I really did. That's why this exercise works, is because you're simulating real time on the hard right edge. I hate even using that, but you're simulating the hard right edge in real time because you truly don't know what's going to happen next. Like right now, we don't know what's going to happen in here because it didn't happen yet. Well, we simulated that with the exercise. So let's take it back here for a second, right? And the market, to me, is bullish. Like I could have called this rotational support in here, and I would have. And then now we're up, and we're bullish as long as we stay above 96.75 because of this double stack green. And this is resistance. And this is resistance. Are we going to go back through the open and make higher highs on the session? I have no idea. I have no idea. And if you do have an idea with some profile, good for you. I'm not saying you're wrong at all. And I'm not saying you're not wrong for having those 10-point predictions. Just understand that they might not be exactly probable, but if they are and you're finding you're right, you still got to find good locations to get on the damn team. Because being right for what's going to happen in 5 hours, you're never going to be 100% confident. But if you're right a lot, that because of some profile opinion said we made lower lows and now we rejected it and we're going to make higher highs, and you're right, you still have to get in. You still got, what you do now is play it from the long side. You can't say, well, my entry was 94 even or 90, well, then you missed it. Or my entry was 95 even. Well, then you missed that. But you can't tell me that you got another 10-point prediction to the upside and you can't find good locations to play from the long side. And the answer is no, because they don't learn. Nobody learns well enough on how to trade and predict the next few bars, which are going to highlight better locations for you to execute your strategy. Most strategies, like most diets, don't suck. The person on it does. Does that mean there's some bad diets? Yes. Does that mean there's some bad strategies? Yes. But generally, a bad strategy and a bad trader, that's really a problem. But a good strategy and a bad trader will get the trader to blame the strategy 9 out of 10 times. And you're going to blame himself, God forbid, right? Am I recording this? Yeah. That's the problem. In between the ears. Brad touched on it a couple weeks ago. That's why I keep circling back to it, is that being through this program, you've got a lot of your ducks in a row, you got a lot of your T's crossed and your I's dotted, but not between the ears necessarily for all of us. And then if you do have them between your ears, you're going to fall into a little glut. This isn't like piloting a plane where you're going to have your salary from the airlines every 2 weeks and you know how to fly a plane. Unfortunately, or I should say fortunately for pilots, they don't have a bad run where they're crashing planes or emergency landing for a week straight and they have to get out of it. Fortunately, we don't have that with pilots, but for trading, we do. We go into a rut, and what we were doing that was working is it, but we're managing the hell out of our risk so we don't get back what we might have made. So it's not what you make, it's what you don't lose. And it's the accumulation of profits that when you subtract your losses, still leave a net green balance. That's called making money. But losers, Should they be eliminated? Some, yes. All, no. Their marketing expenses, their gas expenses you got to put in your car to go to work, office rental that people pay when they rent space and they run a business. Most of you guys don't because you use your home, and that's great. You don't have to pay for gas either. But if you did, those are expenses, reasonable expenses to run a business. That's what training losses are. And platform fees and education, these room fees and things like that. So you should never stop educating yourself as long as you find the right type of education. There's, when people invest in this edge, I'm not egotistical enough to think that this is the end of education you'll ever need. BS. Might be, but there's other good education. This is the end of you ever buying shitty education in the future. You won't ever buy shitty education again after you do this. You might find some things that are good, but the educator is good. Right? There's some guys on here that have done this and done this after the edge that were some pretty good educators, and I could speak to that. But to say that your education is your education over after you become a doctor? Of course not. Is your education over after you become a pilot? Of course not. No, it never is. But as long as you're learning the right stuff and honing in on the skills, on the right techniques and skills, it's important and necessary. But if you go from this to going back to being just a straight Fibonacci trader, then you've went backwards. I don't think anybody does that from here. I don't think they leave here and go backwards in crappy education. They might have had the crap education until they got here. And then here will be either the stop of education, which I would actually not advocate. I think you should always search for decent education. And one guy, it might be more, but one guy specifically in here says he budgets every year for education. I think that's awesome. He actually has money aside to that forces him to educate himself. But after he's done the edge, I guarantee he's made better educational decisions than before this edge, because now you're on this right track. Mm-hmm. What do you got questions about this exercise? 20% when I ask next week will honestly say that they've done it. And I will ask next week. And if I can guarantee you 100% of the people in here are honest. That much I could say about everyone, having known almost all of you. So when I ask how many guys have done this exercise, don't worry if it's going to help you. I'm telling you it's going to help you. And if it doesn't, it ain't going to hurt you. And how much time does it take? Right? How much time does it take? It doesn't take a lot of time. But do it. So look what happened since the hard right edge. If you simulate the hard right edge, then you're going to get better at reading the hard right edge. And that is, they were bullish until they got through this area, and they never did. They used this as support. The edge zones make it easier for me to predict the next few bars. Now, you guys that don't use the edge zones or like them or whatever, I have no argument for you. But I guarantee you guys have something that helps you make your decisions on the next few bars. Use that. Document that. That's what's important. A high right edge isn't my phrase. It's just the right side of the chart, which is real time. That's it. It's real time. And when you get good at, like, when you go back to do this exercise, you're not going to see instances where it turned green and then went away, because it went away. But right now it turned green. So what should happen with these 98 evens? They should go up and not creep below one tick below it, or it's going to get choppy and bearish again. Keep watching that, because those are your when moments and your real-time moments. Not that you have to trade every moment when a green comes in and it doesn't go up, but it's a good tell that if it goes green and it doesn't go up, and you're bearish, it's a good maybe location to get short. Does that make sense? That's the real-time edge zones. I didn't just make this stuff up. This is stuff that I was taught 18, 20 years ago. And now what I have made up is a better way to see it. Okay? You guys have, some of you guys know me for 5 years. Have my concepts changed? Techniques changed? No. Are there better ways to see them and use them? Yes. There might be videos about interviews I've done that talk about this, because it doesn't change. Valuing price doesn't, the concepts of value price doesn't change. We do. We change in trying to convince ourselves that there's a better way, there's a perfect way. There's a better way, there's not a perfect way. We screw up. Good strategies get screwed up by bad traders all the time. And just because you screwed up doesn't make you a bad trader or a bad person, just makes you a person. I'll say it again. Screwing up a good strategy doesn't make you bad as a trader or bad as a person. It just makes you a person. We're human. You're supposed to screw things up. That's how we learn. The last thing I want to leave you with is this chart. And I think that I should actually give you guys the link to this video. But I want to put it in here because I think it's important, and it really made a lot of sense to me. Let me show it first on a whiteboard. Back to a whiteboard. So he draws a chart like this. And this isn't got anything to do with the price of a stock or futures. It has to do with our own emotion and psychology. Up in here is an extreme effort, and down in here is no effort. Okay, so when you're down here, you have, it's just no effort, and what he would consider boredom. Up in here is I can't remember the word he used, but it's so extreme it becomes anxious. I think you become so anxious that you're not going to continue to want to stay up there. Okay, so when you're up here doing extreme stuff, you shouldn't be up there long. You're not going to want to stay up there. When you're doing effortless stuff that is boring, you're not going to want to stay down there. You want to stay in this flow chart that he called it. You could Google it, where you stay in here where there's enough challenge so you're not bored, but not too much where you're not anxious. That's how you progress from, that's why this goes up. You progress in life to have enough challenges to keep you interested, not too many to make you anxious and overwhelmed. And he talks about it in relationships to working out, and he sold me on it. He sold me on it, and he had proof of how foreign countries train for wrestling, and that's why they're so much better than us. He sold me on it. And he's a real fit guy, and he was talking about exercising to the extreme is not the way to exercise. Do it until you feel good, and then stop, and then do it again. Be consistent. Now, does that mean people who exercise to the extreme aren't fit? Of course not. They're very fit. They're very fit, and it'll work. But I got news for you. We're not trying to create things that are tougher to maintain. We're trying to create things that are easier to do in 5 years. A workout regimen or a diet that you could see yourself on in 3 years. If you're on an extreme anything, it's tougher to maintain or sustain that level of extreme behavior. If you're on a diet that has you eating 200 calories a day, you're going to lose weight. But it's not practical to be on that diet in 2 or 3 months. You're going to put it all back on. If you have to be on a treadmill for 3 hours a day, you're going to lose a lot of weight. It's not practical to walk or run on a treadmill for 3 hours a day for most people. So you got to find the balance in trading. Where does this move in trading? It's not practical to study a lot of stuff for X amount of hours a day and think you're going to do it in a year or two. But it's also not practical to do no studying and think you're going to still be doing this in a year or two. I called it in the past a sweet spot. This guy calls it a flow. The sweet spot, there's a sweet spot for everything in life. The diet you're on, the exercise you do, the amount of education you should do, the amount of exercises you should do in trading, these trading exercises, something that's practical that you could do and pick up, like the quoting exercise. You don't have to do it for a month every day. Or maybe you should do it every day for a month, but you don't have to do it forever. But you could pick up and start doing it and then just hone in on it. At some point, you don't have to do it because you've acquired the skill. That's what an exercise is all about. Yeah, you could practice it, but you're actually practicing every day when you're looking at it. Does that make sense? You have to do an exercise forever. You acquire the skill, and then it becomes just by default you're getting better at it. Do you think an auctioneer has to continue to practice quoting an auction? No, he's practicing by doing it, but he had to acquire the skill somehow by doing some exercises. That's what these are about. All right. And they're indexed under trading exercises in track 4. All right. Track 4, they're indexed. Do them all, but do at least one for 2 weeks. And next week, I'll take a survey and see how many people actually did it every session from, starting tomorrow morning. The best time to do it is to prepare for the session. So go over when you left. Let's say you stopped trading today. So tomorrow morning, go back at noon today and go through the overnight session before you even know what happened. Your first thing to do is understand what happened overnight by trying to predict it. Understand what happened overnight, and since you've been away from the market, by trying to predict it. And simulate real time. Like Mark says, he says, when you're working on pulling up for a jump shot with a guy in your face or a hand in your face, the pros have a guy holding a broom. They're simulating as close to that as possible, distracting you. You see it in training camp for professionals all the time. They're not just working on exercises to do it. They're doing efficient stuff that's proven to work, right? And the great coaches don't overwork their players, but they don't underwork them, and they keep a positive mentality, because you could be the most fit athlete there is on the football field, but if you're screwed up between the ears, you're not going to be the great player. Talent without brains, talent without some effort is what gets a guy called overrated, is you relied on talent alone. Talent with effort, you get the Michael Jordans and the LeBron James. Those guys have effort. Guys don't have to wake up at 4 in the morning, though, and prepare for 3 hours. But you can't wake up at 8:29 either, a minute before the open. Find this. All right? Find what keeps you moving up by not working too hard, but certainly not working too light. Do you want that? Do you want that link to that? It's like a 10-minute video on YouTube. In fact, I'm not going to give it to you. You guys got to YouTube search. You go on YouTube and search that Joe Rogan. That's his podcast that I heard it on. And you don't have to like that guy. I actually, what I like about him is he's a lot like me. He's inquisitive on stuff. He asks questions. I always was impressed on what I like what people do for a living. I like the expertise behind it. So I could genuinely ask questions about someone's livelihood and listen to the answers. That's why I'm so likable, in my humble opinion. Hold on, let me find this thing. For those watching this in the future on recording, you're going to have to go on YouTube and search it. I'm going to give you the right search words so you find it easy. Joe Rogan workout extreme. No, wait. My YouTube runs slow on this browser for some reason. And don't have an opinion on the people talking, just the content. How to work out smarter. So Joe Rogan, how to work out smarter. Search that in a YouTube search. Joe Rogan, how to work out smarter. It's 20 minutes. I think you'll like it. I think it works for that guy, and I think it works. That again, it doesn't mean that you can't ever work to an extreme level. But like he puts it, when you get closer to an event, well, our problem as traders is every day is an event, right? We have a game every day that you trade. So you can't be extreme every day. You'll get ruined. You'll get run down. So you got to find that happy medium of sweet spot or flow that he speaks about in this 20-minute video that keeps you challenged without being bored. And I'm telling you, it works for your relationship with your spouse, because if you're bored in a relationship, it gets weaker. If it's an extreme challenge every day, it gets weaker. But there has to be, that's effort. That's that flow of working on things by getting better without having to feel bored or anxious. So relationships, keeping yourself fit or getting fit. And it doesn't mean all fit people do this. No, a lot of fit people get extreme. Longevity, that's the word I'm going after. What is it that you could do in your work ethic and in your life that in 5 years you could continue to see yourself doing? Whether it's in exercise or in your professional life trading. You could say, I could maintain this level of effort in 5 years. I'm not on a treadmill 3 hours a day in order to maintain my weight, because it ain't going to happen. You're not going to be able to maintain it. Hopefully this session helped. This session isn't always about X's and O's. It's about a lot what's in between your ears.